If you're researching your Weardale ancestors, you might like to check out the resources at the Weardale Museum. Today I'm going to demonstrate the power of our family history database called Weardale People. When you first open up the database on one of the computers at the Weardale Museum, it'll start you off on a page like this. This is what we call the family page, and this is the page for William Headley, who was the last person to use the computer was looking at. But you don't type any information into this page at all. What you need to do is go to the index of individuals. Your information is going to be in here. So we click on the index of individuals, and it gives you a list of individuals. We have 70,000 people in our database, so that's quite big. Now we're going to look today at somebody that I know we have information on. We're going to look for a man called Joshua Dawson. So to find Joshua Dawson in the list of individuals, we type in first of all his surname, and we follow it with a comma and then a space and then his Christian name. So there we have it, Joshua Dawson, and we've given a list of a lot of Joshua Dawsons. And the particular one that I'm looking for, I know he died in 1892. So I click on this one and go to his family page. And then what opens up is the information that we have on his family. So at the top, we've got his name, Joshua Dawson. It tells us the date he was born, if we have it, when he died, when he was buried. It tells us where he was born, where he died, where he was buried. It gives us information about his wife, and the same information for her, born, died, buried, where that happened. It'll give us the name of the date of his marriage if we know it, and it will give us information about his children. So 4 children named here. Also on this page there's a tab on the right hand side which would take us to the family page of Joshua's parents, or it would take you to the family page of Francis' parents, or it would take you to the family page of each of the 4 children. So by clicking on that, we can go to Joshua's parents, who were called Joshua and Hannah Featherston. Just go back to the Joshua that we're looking at. So that's Joshua and his family. Also on the page is a box which says spouses. So if Joshua had been married more than once, we would have information about his other spouse and other children he'd had with that other spouse on that page. And the same with Francis. If she'd been married before, we would have got the name of who she was married to at the top, and we would have different children down below. But let's have a look at the More box. The More box gives us additional information for each of these people, and we've got a More box for Joshua, a More box for Francis, a More box for each of the children. If the More box appears to have a file in it, then we have information. If the More box appears to be empty, like this one, then we don't have any more information. So this one says we have more information. Let's go and have a look at it. And we usually have to click down on the notes here to bring it up. So we start here with the census information. Names of people in census started in 1841. So although there were census before 1841, there's no individual information about anybody from that time. You would have to look in parish records, baptism records for that. So 1841, 1851, 1861, he was in the Stanhope parish. In 1871, we've researched this and added it to our information. Joshua was out of parish and he was staying on that particular night in somewhere in Cumberland, and the census enumerator records his details from there. 1881, 1891, he dies in 1892, so he doesn't appear on the 1901 census. But we've got a little bit of an obituary from the Hexham Herald that we've added to our notes for Joshua. We also have Joshua's memorial inscription from the St. John's Chapel graveyard, and we have separate files on the memorial inscriptions. If we do have a memorial inscription in the notes, it means that there'll be a picture of that memorial from the graveyard in one of the files that's outside this particular database. And we also have a calendar of wills. It's just a very short version of the will for Joshua. We can go out of the notes for Joshua by going back to the family page. We can have a look at Francis's notes, and we don't have any information there about Francis before she was married. She first appears in the census here for 1851 with 3 children there, and again it goes down, census information and memorial inscription and nothing else for that. We'll go back to the family page again. So that's the information that we've got on the big yellow page here. Just show you that we can go to Joshua's parents. Joshua's dad was called Joshua and his mother was called Hannah, and it gives information about them. We'll go back to the Joshua Dawson we're looking at, and now we're going to have a look at one of the most powerful things in our database. We're going to look at the icons on the top row. At the museum we don't have all of these icons to baffle you. We just stick to the ancestor and descendant trees, which are here and here. So we'll first of all look at Joshua's ancestors. 1 click, 2 clicks. There's the ancestors for Francis Tinniswood. We obviously didn't go back to Joshua. Let's just take it back there, and we'll click on Joshua and go to his ancestor page, I think. Right, this is the ancestor page for Joshua Dawson. There's Joshua and his father and his mother, his grandfather and his grandmothers, his great-grandfather, and we've got 4 generations back there. We'll just make a little bit bigger so that we can see that information. Now then, do we have any information going back further than 4 generations? By clicking this box, we can adjust the number of generations that we're looking at. And we've got 4 there. Let's see, 5. We'll just boost it up a little bit to 7 generations and see if we have any more information about Joshua's ancestors. Click OK, and no, we don't. We only go back 4 generations for Joshua. Let's go back to, no, we don't need to go back to the family page. Let's click on that one. We'll click on Joshua again, and we'll go to his descendant tree and look to see who the descendants of Joshua are. And we've got line of descendants here. Again, we'll just make it a little bit smaller so that you can see how big they are. So there's Joshua and Francis. Here are his children and the wives and husbands of his children, his great-grandchildren and their wives and husbands, and then great-great-grandchildren. And again, number of generations, we could change this if we want to. Here we're showing 1, 2, 3, 4 generations. Whether there or not there are any children further down, we don't know. Let's go back to the family page again. We'll just go back to the descendant tree again for a minute. And we'll enlarge it so that we can see who's there. We'll have a look at one of his grandchildren, great-grandchildren, Steve Race. Steve Race was an impresario from the BBC. He played the piano. But let's have a look at Steve Race's ancestors. And we can see that this is somebody who died very recently. It obviously has more ancestors to show there. So this is Steve Race. We have a lot of information about the Weardale side of Steve Race's family, but we have next to no information about the side of Steve Race's family that was not Weardale, and that shows up quite clearly on our ancestor tree there. Something else that shows up on our ancestor tree is, how big the ancestor tree is compared to Joshua Dawson's, because we've got more generations in it now. We've got 7 generations there. Are they 8 or 9 possibly? Let's see if it gets any bigger. Yes, just get a little bit bigger there. So you can see it's an extraordinarily powerful piece of equipment that we've got here. Usually first users have got information about somebody who was born maybe 1900, 1890, and some of the ancestor trees can be quite big. For anybody who's you're looking for, who was born about 1821 when Joshua was born, we don't go back terribly far. Often our searches end somewhere around 1730. It's difficult finding ancestors before 1730, but we do sometimes. So that's a little look at our Weardale family database that we have up at the museum. An incredibly powerful piece of equipment. And here we have 2 of the people who are responsible for building up this database. Ken on the right hand side, Eric on the left hand side, with the details about how you can contact them for information. This information is not online. The database is not online, and you can't visit the Weardale Museum at the moment because of coronavirus. But if you want to find information about your family history, either Ken or Eric would be very willing to do searches for you. Now, we don't make any charges at the Weardale Museum, but thousands of hours have gone into building this database. Not only Ken and Eric, but John and others have added information into this to give information about 70,000 people. And although we don't charge for the information, we do very much appreciate donations to the Weardale Museum. Thank you for listening.